show.
The After Show.
Yes. I'm Alex.
And I am Levi.
And what an episode.
What an episode. Yeah. I feel like I just have to start off with saying that Rand had a lot of punchable moments.
Oh yeah, so many punchable moments.
I
was almost worried I was like down on him a little too hard, reacting to episode 1 and talking about episode 1. But if you weren't on roughly the same page as me then, I feel like you kind of are now.
For sure.
If you don't come into this knowing anything about Rand, because oh my god, Rand.
Yeah.
Why?
Man, he just it's interesting because we were just saying how Matt, we were expecting more pranks from Matt, and he's kind of been like the humorous voice of reason, who's been like, all right, you just said more words than you ever have. He just kind of says a thing we're all thinking in a funny way. And
she flings fireballs, so I want to be on her good side.
Yeah, and I feel like Rand is saying the punchable things that we're all kind of thinking of, should we trust this lady? And he just kind of does it.
Well, are we thinking those things? Because he has anti-timing. He brings things up at the worst possible times.
Yeah, and he's so emo and moody with Egwene. It's come on, dude, just accept that she doesn't want to be your blushing bride, you know?
Yeah, but she's not ready to totally push him away either.
Yeah, the tension is bringing him back around. But what would you pick as Rand's most punchable moment?
His whole childish rant at Moraine when she has done basically nothing but ensure they live.
Totally.
With a small army of Trollocs after them, and he's like, what stops us from dying like that ferryman that you didn't directly kill?
Yeah.
And Moraine's like, I do not have time for this.
Yep, she's like, I don't care. Run out of patience. Got a Trolloc stab wound.
Yep, no big deal.
Yeah, for me, the most punchable was that one little line where, Egwene just snuggling up to him. It's this can just be a quiet little, I just need some companionship. She's like, I came out here to be alone.
Oh, God.
It's just God.
Yeah.
He's knuckles to the face, my friend.
Yep. That face begs for a fist. And that is why it is perfect casting.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he's a good actor, and he's doing a really good job with Rand. Rand just happens to be,
yeah, Rand
fairly punchable.
Rand grows, but there's always an element of punchability, I feel like.
It morphs over time, but
it definitely morphs over time.
Actually, I feel like at the end of the 13th book, at the end of the 12th book, we took a hard turn for Rand not being punchable, and I'm like, I don't really buy this as being Rand anymore.
It's true.
Wait, without the punchability, what is he, essentially?
He remembers the women.
Yes, he definitely does that. And not in the way that you're thinking.
Yes.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that much later.
Yes.
Probably. Maybe not even in this season.
Yeah. I hope not. Anyways. What did you think what was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment was probably that whole establishing scene with the White Cloaks. Because I feel like in the books, you had a little bit of time to be like, okay, they're dedicated to rooting out dark friends. These might be they're good, but kind of a little too zealous. But here, right away, you have Star Wars Empire music playing as he burns a woman alive. You immediately know what these dudes are about, and that's kind of fine. I'm fine with it being established that quickly.
Totally,
that they are made of bastard.
Yes, and I was saying how I don't feel like we ever saw a White Cloak killing of an Aes Sedai on the page in the series, even though they totally would, and it was just implied if they could, but they suck, so they can't. and just having a confirmed Aes Sedai killer who's got their rings ears tied to his. That's awesome.
Just as trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. My favorite moment was similar too. It's interesting because I kind of feel we started everything last episode, and this one has been kind of a lot of middle of we're still in the chase.
True.
So the main plot is kind of okay, we've gotten a moment to breathe and reflect on what this is, and we're still in the chase, but it still feels like middle. But the White Cloaks, I think, were interesting because it was something new and it developed because we see them, and then we have it matter because Moraine is in danger from them, and to me, that the tension of that scene where they meet in the forest and Lan hides her ring and she lies pretty well until she can't think of a lie, and
Yep.
she's like just struggling with her own.
You can see it
three
on
O's.
her face.
It's so good in her voice. She is a killer actor.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
she does such a good
like
job.
you could. I always admire when actors can do like in character acting.
Totally, yeah.
Because you can
yeah.
believe like that is Moraine and she's putting on an act.
Yeah.
This is the actor just playing a different character.
And she's not as good at it.
Yes.
Totally. And I just like, as a writer, I respect when you can have like conflict that's really tense and you're really worried without actually any physical altercation.
Right.
Like Lan didn't pull his sword out. Like he was, he was kind of like in the Borderlands, like when you touch women like that, you lose your hand.
Yep.
But they didn't actually fight, and the threat was there the whole time.
Yep, looming. You could see, the White Cloaks rode up with all those numbers.
Yeah. But I just love how they pulled it off and how tense it was without resorting to violence.
Yeah.
The whole thing was, I was just like, oh, God, the whole time. And that's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff in my book.
Fantastic, for sure. It. We didn't quite have anything on the level of wife axing this episode.
Yeah, we didn't have a wife axe. No, I feel like the closest to it was Moraine being like, we shouldn't go so close to Shedder Lagoth. Like, definitely don't take us into Shedder Lagoth. And then
Lan's
she wakes
like,
up,
well,
she's like, they were Trollocs, and she's like, you've killed us all. And it was really interesting to see Lan's moment of like, oh, I really did fuck up.
Yep.
Like, it's sort of like, yeah, I don't feel like Lan is ever that incompetent in the books, but it's kind of cool to see him humanized a little bit.
Yeah, because particularly early on in the books, he's the more like action man side of kind of the Gandalf duo that is Lan and Moraine.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
I feel like we didn't really see a few like human cracks in his armor for a long time.
Kind of until he starts to like tutor Rand in a certain way. Then he becomes sort of like fatherly, but yeah, I thought it was cool to see. Like, I like that. I just feel like with everything, they're like cranking what Jordan had from a 6 to a 10. They're like just making it so much more upfront. Trollocs are bad. White Cloaks are bad. Like, yeah, Lan is amazing, but he's still human.
And they're also doing a great job of, not that we really spend much time with Lan. I mean, the books are all first person, but they jump around between characters. So you get to be in a lot of characters' heads. But you can see, like, the stuff that might be, like, kind of more, like, thought processes on the page. You get to see it in the actors' expressions. They're really doing a great job bringing that out, particularly with Perrin.
Yeah,
he's the rock star.
How much internal monologue we've skipped. Yeah,
yes.
They picked a really good actor for it because you can still see all the gears turning.
Yeah,
you just don't have to read them.
He's still like kind of a stoic character, like a lot of the time. Face is blank, but when the emotion comes up, like it hits.
Yeah, it was actually like a pretty intense scene between him and Matt when they're in that like abandoned temple or whatever in Lagoth.
And you can see, his definite unease when like there's a bunch of wolves here, which I thought it was interesting that we were getting that this early. Like,
yeah, totally. So we considered having a section in the after show called The Background of Time.
Right.
In which we talk about like what the fuck is actually going on here because there's way too much detail in the series. And I think some
of it
stuff
might
is like
be spoilers.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
So it's tricky. Some of it is like just straight up nods to people who've read the books.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where like you can leave that out. We see where some of this stuff is going for sure.
Yes.
Like there are probably a few moments in the actual watch along when we said something and you might have thought, what do they mean by that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I guess like we probably shouldn't background of time just because like we don't want to ruin your foreground of time.
Yeah, but there's a lot going on in the background that's stuff that might seem like, oh, that doesn't seem to like, why is this that? Or like they get a little too lucky here. Like there are reasons for damn near everything.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah, and so it's not just random what's happening.
And, we are still getting some expansion of kind of the world and the lore.
Yeah,
despite not everything being explained. We had that whole bit about Manetheren. We finally got
that was
to
awesome.
The 3 oaths, which I was a little disappointed they didn't bring that in sooner because first episode it's kind of like, oh, don't trust Aes Sedai. They pull the strings of the world from the White Tower.
Right.
And it's like, why? It's kind of, absent any of the background knowledge that we have. kind of why do you think that beyond just, magic ladies.
Yeah, and then we see her like kicking all kinds of ass with magic, and it's like, oh wow, no wonder they fear her. And then we find out like she had to wait until she was in like true mortal danger.
Yep.
You know, because in episode 1, Lan's like, we need to leave now, and she's like, nope. She's like, I need to be in danger so I can save, this person is then going to save the world.
I need to trigger the exact clause in my oaths where I can start being amazing and cause a lot of collateral damage, but also ensure literally the entire village does not die.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff.
And can we just talk, like, I predicted last time that we were going to have a big, dumb action set piece about rescuing Nynaeve.
Yeah.
And I had almost forgotten about Nynaeve and I'm sorry, I know I'm pronouncing the name wrong. It's what's been in my head.
Nynaeve. Like me saying Shadar Logoth instead of Shadar Logoth, obviously.
Right.
Such an American way to say it.
Whatever. Y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
Speaking of American, y'all. She came back.
Yeah,
and it's so good in like
saving.
The best possible way.
I'm so curious. How did she get away? Like, because she's in Trolloc land. Like, they're surrounding the city, presumably, and she had gotten taken by them, and she looks none the worse for the wear.
Yes, and she doesn't. She was a wisdom, and she can talk to the wind, but that in the middle of a bunch of Trollocs,
Trolloc grabs you like she would, like she couldn't get away.
Which my prediction for next episode is we're going to get the flashback. We're going to see at least a hint
for sure
of what she did, because we haven't really spent enough time with her to kind of establish her as like the badass that she is being treated as. Like, we saw some moments
scream
like
back at a Trolloc.
Yeah, scream back at a Trolloc, like stab it repeatedly in the side. Other amazing things. What are you expecting next episode?
Funny that we're talking about Nynaeve. The main prediction that I have, and this is just slightly spoilery, but okay, that she can listen to the wind, and that she is the wisdom, so she's a healer.
2 plus 2.
2 plus 2 makes Moiraine is dying, and she needs someone to heal her. And this is not in the books, but I think it would make perfect sense for her to basically guide Nynaeve into using the power more directly, or for her to, like, in a moment of real stress of like Moiraine is dying, like Wilder style. Wilder is a thing that they call people who can use the one power without being trained. Heal Moiraine, because she can't make it to where another sister is going to heal her. I don't think, like, she's really badly off, and here a healer shows up who can already listen to the wind. So that's my prediction.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I think you're completely dead on there.
Yeah,
that would make all the sense in the world.
Did you have any Robert Jordan is rolling in his grave moments?
None that I can think of, but it's definitely kind of, as we've gone along, your more recent exposure to the books has become very apparent. So did you have any?
Yeah, I do have an advantage there. Well, for one, as noted in the very end in the watch-along, I don't think you can sneak up on Lan. Like, even if he's, like, really regretting all his life decisions, and even if this show is kind of showing him as being a little bit more romantically in love with Moiraine than the books do, I still don't think you can sneak up on him. And Nynaeve, like, she's a wisdom, but she's not, like, an amazing tracker or something. So I didn't quite buy that, even though I liked the, like, aha moment that it gave us of being like, whose blade is it? Holy fuck, it's Nynaeve. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she was holding a Trolloc blade. If not, she had a really damaged human blade, because he was all chopped up and stuff. So that's
you're right.
Fucking cool. That is a cool promise.
When I saw the knife, in that moment, my brain thought we were going to see a different kind of monster that has not been in the show as of yet, that I won't say. But then my brain immediately forgot that, and oh my god, Nynaeve is back!
Oh, I straight up don't know what kind of monster you're talking about.
There is a kind of monster that doesn't come in until I think like book 6 or 7, but is very good at infiltration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that would have been a big jump. But
yeah, that would have been a serious Robert Jordan rolling in his grave.
Totally.
Also, wouldn't perfectly mesh with its abilities, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Not in the show yet. Shouldn't talk about it that much.
Totally. Yeah. Otherwise, I feel like Robert Jordan would probably feel like his delicate darlings are being kind of like pimped or something, because like I said, they're just cranking everything up. Like, you'd be like, yes, those are the White Cloaks, but they don't burn witches at the stake, and they don't have like Aes Sedai hunters. But...
See, I feel like they were, and maybe this is just, maybe they go this direction more later. My memories could be getting jumbled, but I feel like they go a little more overt in like we'll fight Aes Sedai.
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah. So there's a scene,
and maybe that's later.
There's a scene in Towers of Midnight, or a whole section where like they're squaring off against an enemy that has a bunch of women who can use the power in it, and they're accepting that they're probably going to die, but they're going to fight that fight anyway. And the whole thing is dumb because they should both be fighting something else. But anyways, not to spoil too much.
That's the White Cloaks for you. They should be fighting something else, but...
do you have any other wheels turn this week? It's been a week or so since we recorded our last one. What have you been into?
Yes, I have been into... it's another video game this time. It's kind of my main wheelhouse. It's a JRPG, for those in the know, kind of like, Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, so forth, called Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's this... And it's sort of relevant to bring up here because we're getting more of like the background lore and kind of the grander struggle. It's a game series where it usually starts just after an apocalypse or right before an apocalypse happens, where kind of the world is returned to this sort of primordial theological soup. Nice. To the point where there's a bunch of these like mythological creatures and gods running around trying to like basically gain the power to remake the world as they see fit. And that extends to like who's in your party. Like my current party in the game is one of the Norns from Norse mythology, Thor, and a Hindu god whose name I forget. But it's kind of you, like, at the series' best, it's like for a video game, a really deep exploration of like humanity's relationship to like religion and sort of how that conflicts with like kind of free will and self-determination. And kind of thinking about that a little bit more as we see like kind of more of the lore and like kind of the overt like the monsters showing up in this show. But what other wheels are turning for you?
Well, as you know, one of the great troubles and struggles of my life is that I don't have a lot of time outside of taking care of my children and writing my own novels to turn many wheels. Right. But I did finish the one that I mentioned last time, Shadow and Bone. I think it was quite good, and I'm probably going to do an episode of a different podcast about that. It got a lot better and diverged from the show in good ways. And I started a book by, I think it's technically a novella, by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who's an amazing writer. He wrote Children of Time, is probably his most famous one. It's science fiction, but he just has a really epic scope to his imagination. And this one is a really cool post-apocalyptic setting that reminds me some of this, where like, because there's an age of legends to this world that was kind of technological, but like magic technological. And in this, there's an anthropologist, which is funny. I have a master's degree in anthropology, who's been stranded on this world, and he has like super high technology, and everybody else there is like living in the Wheel of Time. And they come to seek the sorcerer's aid in defeating this thing. And so far, it's
the sorcerer is the anthropologist.
Yeah, totally. Who just has like really good machines, but he's a sorcerer to them.
Fantastic.
And it's been super good so far. He's a great writer, and the sorcerer is like, well, the anthropologist is plagued because like he's basically been abandoned there, and so he's sort of trying to find meaning, even though he knows he's like spoiling the culture that he's there to study by interacting with them at all. And then you get the like very political and manipulative, but also wondrous perspective of the fourth daughter of the queen, who's come, even though she didn't have permission, to seek out the sorcerer's aid. And yeah, it's just like quirky and funny and dramatic, and the characters are unique and lovable, and yeah, super good.
Nice.
Oh, and I feel like in the watch along, I just wanted to shout out my own shout out about like I do feel like Robert Jordan, that this series like really, really influenced where fantasy went. As a fantasy writer, I've thought a lot about the genre and how it's changed. And I called out, or maybe it was in episode 1 even, about how the whole color coding of people that's became such a YA dystopian thing.
YA dystopia is something that I only have like kind of a peripheral knowledge of. I mean, I know a lot of people my age got really into the YA stuff, but I wasn't, but I do know there are some of those things like color coding and very, sort people into
Totally.
just various categories and just this is what you are.
Yeah, and that's like what's wrong with society is that it's so rigid. But like
Right.
Victoria Aveyard has a series where they have different colors of blood. Pierce Brown, I think is his name, has actually a really good series where they have different colors of blood and it's different kinds of people. And it's like a really overt thing. But I realized, wow, like Aes Sedai have that. And it doesn't feel simplistic in Jordan's books. It feels very deep and complex,
Right.
especially as the tensions between the colors called Ajas grow. But yeah, I think that is a place where his wheels kept turning outside of his own series, which is pretty cool to see that influence.
Definitely. I mean, even I know you're a big fan of Brandon Sorensen.
Yeah,
Sanderson.
yeah.
And like
It's hard to say fast. Brandon
yeah,
Sanderson.
Brandon Sanderson. Oh no, he'll appear in the mirror behind me. Like his Mistborn series, how
Yeah.
the magic is very like divided there.
Totally.
There's not quite as much of a division with the Aes Sedai, and that we haven't really. About the only thing you get from the show that far is, the red ladies seem mean.
Blue Lady seems nice.
Yes, this one blue lady that we have met.
Yeah, which is
I'm looking forward to us getting more Aes Sedai because I think their
Totally.
whole system in the Ajas is really
Yeah,
fascinating, particularly when you get into kind of how that plays out and various characters of different colors bounce off each other.
yeah, totally. Yep.
Like
yeah.
I feel like you could have easily extracted, and maybe it will at one point, a whole season worth out of just Aes Sedai being Aes Sedai around other Aes Sedai.
For sure. If they get that far, Egwene has such a cool sequence in, I think it's The Gathering Storm or maybe Towers of Midnight, where she's like interacting with them in this kind of like righteous prisoner mode. And it's like,
Oh.
I love that storyline.
Yes.
It's so good. That's after Sanderson took over and he did an amazing job with it. Okay.
Did you have a 3 words for this
Oh,
episode to sum it up in
shit.
3 words?
Yeah.
I've
so
put you on the spot, I see.
I considered Rand's pretty punchable, but
I mean,
I feel
barely needs to be said.
and oh god, I feel like don't really have a good one for this because for me it mostly felt like it's middle. So I think
Okay.
I'm just gonna go with White Cloaks are bad.
That's fair. Me, I had groundless suspicion everywhere. Because, there's a lot
yes.
of... the Two Rivers kids are kind of putting a
Right.
lot of suspicion, sus,
got
as they
punchable
say.
suspicion,
Yes,
yep.
punchable suspicion.
Moraine is sus.
On Moraine, when all she has done is just try to keep these ungrateful little
Yeah.
shits alive.
Yeah, totally. Yep, Lance's decision to take them into Shadar Logoth is sus.
Yeah,
White Cloaks are sus of everybody.
White Cloaks are suspicious of everybody.
Yes.
That's just kind of how they be.
That's cool. Yep. I'll go with that. Well, I think that is a sufficient after show.
Yep.
If you have thoughts, I'll put a link in the show notes. Love to hear what you think. If you think we're totally wrong,
That's
cetera.
valid. There's a lot of story here to interpret.
yeah,
And
totally.
we're coming into this with kind of bias from our readings, our mental images of what this
Yeah.
world looks like. So if you're coming into this fresh, you might see things completely a different way.
Yeah, I can't.
That's valid. That's fine. Love to
can't-
hear it.
Yeah, I can't really escape like my perspective from the books, but yeah, if you have thoughts, send them our way. It'd be super cool to hear. With that, the watch along of Time Turns. Episodes come and go,
There are no beginnings in,
Or
in the
endings.
watch along of time.
but it is
And ending.